What up, you guys? Kirk here, back at you with another video. I'm just fucking with you. Kirk Wilcox here, and I want to thank Kisara Vera for letting me do a guest video on her YouTube channel. Thank you, Kisara. And today I want to talk about the Qatar-based media company Al Jazeera, or as you probably know it better as HA+, which is a network that appears to be very concerned about carbon emissions, given their tweets endorsing the recent climate march, along with their various concerning YouTube videos about rising CO2 levels over the years.
Many people feel powerless to do anything about climate change because they think maybe it's too late. Oil and gas industries, online shopping addictions, and Caribbean vacations are pumping our atmosphere so full of CO2 that the oceans are dying, sea levels are rising, species are disappearing.
This is showing the world that there is no place any longer in this world for fossil fuels.
We're in Paris, where world leaders at the UN Climate Conference are scrambling to reach a decision on how to limit CO2 emissions for the 21st year in a row.
Lip service to how concerned they are about climate change on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's basically drill baby drill. I mean, they're opening up all kinds of new frontiers for fracking, for tar sands, for coal.
Generally, it's not especially effective. There is so much extra carbon dioxide put in the air so quickly that a certain amount of climate change is baked in.
Bill Nye, the Science Cut.
The first 3 months of this year were the hottest ever recorded. May was the wettest, and carbon in the atmosphere has passed 400 parts per million. The last time that happened, humans didn't exist. You know what also didn't exist? Amazon Prime same-day shipping. F*** a footprint. That's a carbon high five, baby. Woo, 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 woo.
Bill Nye, the Science Cut.
This all seems pretty ironic coming from a media company that was founded by the former Qatar Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, who helped bring the country to prominence by tapping into their vast resources of oil and natural gas, making the fossil fuel industry the driving force behind Qatar's booming economy.
Whoopsie daisy.
What makes things even funnier is that Al Jazeera is still owned and operated by the royal Thani family, who's worth billions of dollars thanks to, you guessed it, oil and natural gas.
Stop burning fossil fuels.
According to secular writer Faisal Saeed Al-Muhtar, one of the things many people don't know about Al Jazeera is that it's mostly owned by the royal family of Qatar, which is financed by oil and gas. It's a company that does not rely much on advertising because they have other sources of revenue. A biographical article from The Independent about Sheikh Hamad also confirms Faisal's claims. But since Al Jazeera media is so concerned about carbon emissions, well, I presume that the royal Thani family will immediately shut down fossil fuel production in Qatar.
No, of course not.
Which begs the question, why the double standard? As Faisal Al-Muhtar further explains in this interview, there are two faces of Al Jazeera media. There's Al Jazeera Arabic, which Faisal says he read growing up, and claims is literally the spokesman of the Muslim Brotherhood, adding that the network often publishes xenophobic, anti-Semitic, anti-gay, and anti-women's rights rhetoric, adding that Al Jazeera Arabic makes Fox News look like a liberal news network by comparison.
Now that's fucked up.
Faisal then reveals the other face of Al Jazeera media, AJ+, which panders to American progressives by making videos about Black Lives Matter, climate change, the Flint water crisis, the Dakota Access Pipeline, and other hot-button issues, explaining that AJ+ tries to make America and the West look as horrible as possible in an effort to make Americans and Westerners doubt their own culture, while diverting attention from the Middle East and the horrors that are done in the name of Islamamia.
These guys are a fucking disgrace.
Now, I might be giving Faisal a huge benefit of the doubt here, but this really does not seem far-fetched given AJ Plus's contrasting coverage of Israel and Iran. Whenever AJ Plus puts out a video about Israel, a free and democratic country and longtime ally of the United States, the story often portrays Israel in a very negative light. Do Black Lives Matter in Israel? Israel wall, security or apartheid? Check out this app that helps you boycott Israel. Meanwhile, AJ Plus's coverage of Iran, a country that's ruled by theocracy, a country where journalists are imprisoned, a country where women and gays are oppressed. Oh, well, everything's going great in Iran. They have these really neat art exhibits. Yeah, you should check it out. Everything's great in Iran. They have these walls of kindness. Who could have a problem with walls of kindness? And women, the women love playing robot soccer. Oh, and all these stories that you read about Iranians chanting death to America, well, they don't really mean death to America. All of this talk about Al Jazeera and AJ Plus reminds me of the former KGB operative and Soviet Union defector Yuri Bezmenov, who explained that much of the Soviet KGB's activities involved subverting American culture by persuading Americans to doubt, loathe, and criticize their own country.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. The main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
As far as Qatar goes, the nation has been under much scrutiny ever since their successful bid for the World Cup, after revelations of very harsh and perhaps involuntary working conditions, particularly on the stadiums that they're building for the World Cup, along with blatant LGBT rights violations and allegations that the state sponsors and abets terrorist organizations like Al-Qaeda, Hamas, and the Taliban.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
But back to the blatant hypocrisy on carbon emissions, I have a question for people like Francesca Fiorentini, who still works for AJ+. How does it feel knowing that you're spewing your anti-oil rhetoric on a platform that's financed by oil and gas?
Stop burning fossil fuels.
If you honestly believe that carbon emissions are a threat to humanity and are destroying the planet, then you're essentially being paid in blood money by your own standards. But hey, I assume after given this new information that Francesca Fiorentini will step down from her position at AJ+ in protest of the fact that she's essentially working for an oil company.
No, of course not.
As for AJ+, I would say that they can take their disingenuous feel-good videos and their American-hating rhetoric and go fuck themselves in the ass, but unfortunately, sodomy is against the law in Qatar.